Greetings from today's stand-up bike ride. Today, I'm going to document my blood sugar during a fasted 4-hour cardio session or stand-up bike ride. Fasting is a very viable way to train. Your blood sugar doesn't tend to be low. If anything, quite the opposite. And your body knows how to fuel itself, but it does need to be trained to do this. Here we go. After half an hour of riding, blood sugar's gone up to 6.5, so it's almost as if I've eaten, and that's because your liver stores glucose, which is sugar. It's like a bottle of Coca-Cola or Lucozade just inside your body, and whenever you need energy, it just releases it. And this is something that I try to teach my weight loss clients, is that if you want to be really lean, treat diet and exercise independently. You don't have to eat to exercise. Not unless you're riding for many hours, but training under 4 hours, you can easily sustain that when you're fit. You can sustain that fasted. I haven't eaten anything since last night, and everything's going hunky-dory. My blood sugar's at 6.5. It's not low, it's high. And that's because my body's fueling itself from the stored sugar that's already inside it. I made a brief stopover, and as soon as I stopped, the blood sugar level started dropping back towards 5.5. So as soon as I stopped for about 5 minutes, and the body knew I was not exercising, stopped producing glucose, started dropping back down to my fasted level again. Let's see how it responds now. I'm moving. I'll just go for another half hour, check out where it's at. I do expect the liver will run out of glucose eventually, and before the 3.5 hour ride is over, but that's just speculation. Today's the first time I actually monitor it. Okay, 15 minutes later, blood sugar back to about 6.5 again. I think it was 6.3. So it's holding up. Whenever I exercise, it goes up. When I stop, it goes down, so that my body stays energized. And this sugar is coming out of the stores in the liver. The muscles also have their own stores, which they use internally. So your body has a massive sugar reservoir. And training like I do, fasted like this, makes that reservoir bigger. And you know that because when you do it, you can go further and further with comfort. And that's because the reservoir is growing. Once the reservoir is very large, it means you're very insulin sensitive. Your body soaks up sugar from your meals very easily. Hi, how you doing, guys? So I've been going 1.5 hours now. Blood glucose still 6.4. So my body just artificially elevates it and keeps it up so that I can just train as if I was eating. The question is, how long will I be able to sustain the higher blood sugar, and when will I start running out of energy? Be aware when fasting, it's very important to keep your gut full of water. A full gut makes you comfortable fasting. So people who fast need to drink probably 2 to 3 times as much water as people who don't fast. And it's also very important to supplement electrolytes, because if you don't supplement electrolytes, your body does lose a lot of electrolytes, and a lot of the electrolytes come from your bones. This is super important to understand. That's why people generally who do endurance training lose bone mass, because their electrolytes leach out of their bones. So you have to supplement electrolytes just to keep your bone density if you do a lot of endurance training. Please keep this in mind. And please also note, you need electrolytes to maintain salt balance, because if you're drinking loads of water because you're fasting and you're losing electrolytes, you can develop a negative gradient where water starts going into your cells, and that's not a healthy condition. Now, it's not that dangerous. It's not as dangerous as some people might tell you, but it can potentially be dangerous, especially if you're out fasting for 10 hours while riding, but not for 3 or 4 hours. 3 or 4 hours, you don't have to take electrolytes. I've done 100-mile, 200k, 10-hour rides fasted without electrolytes. But I tend to always supplement electrolytes every morning just because I fast. Sometimes, especially when I've got time, I like to stop in the middle of nowhere where I know it's very, very far from people, just for a bit of gratitude and reflection, and maybe to call loved ones that I haven't spoken to recently. Just, gratitude and reflection, because life is always a privilege, and it's good to do it in places like this, because it's not easy to find places like this, except when you go on a very, very long ride. So that's what I do. Blood sugar still holding up well. Enjoying the ride. I stopped again to make some phone calls. Blood sugar dropped straight down to 5.7, kind of like what it is when I am sleeping or just wake up, I think. Basically, the body does not want to waste the sugar. So whenever you're not exercising, it immediately stops producing it. So now I'm 2 hours in. I've done 2 stops, one for phone calls, one to visit people, and still going strong. I do expect the blood sugar to fall back to baseline. That doesn't mean I've run out. It just means now I'm using the sugar already stored in the muscles, and my body is burning only fat. So even now, as I'm using the stored sugar, my liver is taking body fat, especially visceral fat, which is on the liver, and it's converting that into glucose. So now, when the liver starts noticing its stores are going down, it starts desperately metabolizing the visceral fat so that it can keep producing that sugar and keep the blood sugar up. But now that blood sugar is coming from fat. So my fuel is now coming from fat. And as long as you eat properly after the ride and in the days to come, you keep the fat loss gains. So that's how you progress. You burn fat all the time and you eat properly so that you don't put it back on. So if you're always burning fat, but you eat in a way that doesn't shoot your blood sugar up very much or very often, you'll find that your body just has good internal stores of energy, and it uses its fat to make most of the energy, and for the short bursts and the sprints, it uses the carbs that you eat in your meals. So this is going well. There's nothing new here. It's just, this is the first time I'm actually documenting it on my own body, but I've always known this science. It's just good to see it play out in real life. What a day. What a beautiful day to ride. Now, back in 2014, when I was still early in my career as a fitness coach, I did a number of experiments with fasted riding range. So I did more than 20 bike rides longer than 10 hours after an overnight fast whilst still fasting. And those rides ranged from 100 miles, 160 kilometers to 500 kilometers, 330 miles. Durations from 10 hours fasting riding to 34 hours fasted riding. So I speak with huge confidence when it comes to what the human body is capable of doing and why it's important to be able to train fasted so that your eating and your training can be completely separate and you can maintain good health. I know many long distance cyclists who are diabetic from all the processed crap they shovel into themselves when they do long rides. And they're overweight, some of them, and all unnecessary because they think they have to shovel these ultra-processed nutritional products into their bodies, and they don't. So, really and truly, there's an alternative way of doing things, and that is doing your training while you're fasting and always eating in a set way, regardless of whether you exercise or not. Keeps you insulin sensitive, builds huge fat burning metabolism, and also builds huge glucose stores in your muscles and liver so that you have the flexibility to be fasted or not fasted as suits your goals. Now I must tell you, when I'm doing very long events, I do shovel processed junk into myself when I'm doing a race or some sort of a big event. But for my normal day-to-day training, fasting is the best way forward because it stops me corroding my teeth, stops me destroying my metabolism, potentially risking diabetes, etc. Now it's important to give the normal caveats. Those being, if this stuff's new to you, do not embark on these kinds of changes without supervision. Now, I've coached thousands of people and I currently have more than 300 clients training in person in my fitness business using fasting based dietary approaches. So I'm very confident in the feasibility of what we do. But that doesn't mean you should be. If this is new to you, do not embark on it without supervision. And if you want my guidance, just get onto the relevant links on this video and get in contact. We can always book a consultation and take it from there. If you're a type 1 diabetic, even a type 2 diabetic, again, extra caution because your metabolism doesn't function normally. Good luck out there, everybody. It's a beautiful day. Two and a half to 3 hours in, and the blood sugar's gone under 5. Now, I can continue for another hour doing this, but that's just because I'm training metabolically. I'm looking at optimizing fat burning, not fitness. But if I was doing a longer training session and I was working on getting fit for an event, this would be the point where I start eating. So you can combine this way of training fasted with eating. You just go as long as you can fasted, but honestly, I know when it's time to eat. It's normally after 3 hours, and I can see the blood sugar has just suddenly changed, and it's going down now quite steadily, so it doesn't mean I can't keep going, but my energy supply is not keeping up anymore, so I will slow down. Next week I'll do the same ride, but at this point where the blood sugar gets below 5, I will start eating so that I can show you what the effects are of that. But today it's just about pure fasted riding and the feasibilities and what it looks like inside the body and how the blood sugar behaves. Into the 4th hour now, and the liver's blood sugar fuel store is totally finished. It doesn't mean I'm totally finished. I feel just fine, but I don't feel strong for sustained sprinting. I have to ride at kind of long distance pace, just nice and easy. But I can go on like this for a long time. It's super important that you keep your stomach full with water when you're in this state, because your metabolism slows when you're dehydrated, and then your body won't be able to liberate enough energy from the body fat. So now we're running on body fat only. There's no danger of the body going into that critical low blood sugar when you're riding like this and you're used to it. It's not like bonking, like what you do when you're taking energy and then you miss a meal and you keep riding and then your blood sugar goes low and you just lose your thought process and you become dangerous. When you're fasted, you just go slower and slower, but your body always keeps a reserve for basic functions, cognition, etc. And I'm telling you this because, as I said, I've done this many times for even beyond 24 hours, and you don't lose cognition, but you do lose sprint ability, because sprint ability is very glucose based. So we're just going to ride at a nice easy pace, the kind of pace I would ride if I was going 200 kilometers or further, and everything should be okay. I'll give one last check on the blood sugar when I get home to see how low it eventually got. I'll refuel with carbs and show you what the refueling curve looks like, and then we're done. A tiny little deer just went walking across the road right here. Just a timely reminder that all animals are designed to forage all day for food without eating. So even if my blood sugar is now at 4.7 or 4.5, I can still go all day like this. As long as I keep this low intensity, this 100-mile riding pace, I can go on and on and on. And that's the whole point. That's what we're designed to do, so that we can find food and do our business. Just sustained sprinting wouldn't be great. But for normal riding pace, I can keep going and I'm feeling great. I'm actually feeling great. Okay. Finally at the end, about 4 hours later, and blood sugar around 4.5. So that's how low it got. I still feel fine. The secret is just keeping the tummy full, and then I'm gonna fuel up on carbs, see how the body responds, and next week, I'll ride a bit further and I'll start fueling during the ride just to see what the differences are. I've refueled with 2 eggs and a bowl of porridge. Blood sugar went up to about 6.9, it's dropping again back to baseline, so that's about it. As you can see, eating a bowl of porridge gets a blood sugar about as high as it goes when you're fasting and working quite hard. And yeah, that's the experiment completed.